by the government. What we thought would have been high risk, high reward, which is almost like the Western desperado area, where you're going into an investment opportunity and the amount of profits you can get is based off of how many people lost on the other end of the deal. It's not like that. The high risk, high reward deal discussed over breakfast in some U.S. circles was so heavily policed in Norway, it was borderline a financial crime. You just could not pull off in Norway what you can pull off in the U.S. You would quickly and painfully realize that Norway plays by a completely different set of rules for both love and money. And those rules were about to change everything that most of us thought when we thought that we were going out to Norway and make it do what it do the way we make it do what it do in America. And this is one of the reasons why I tell you guys that while yes, you can go to different countries and find a fantastic standard of living, you can go and find fantastic investment opportunities, or you can just stay comfortable with investing from your own home country, dual citizenship into another country with a work visa or a digital nomad visa, and just wire transfer money to the country that you're living in on a regular basis. Doesn't matter how you pull it off. Before you go, you've got to do some fundamental, groundbreaking research on what all you're capable of doing before you get out there. You're going to have to call the embassies. You're going to have to really do some digging because whether you go there on a vacation or you go there on an extended vacation or turn it into a way of life, you have to put in the effort to make sure that you can get out there and take care of whatever it is you're trying to take care of for the period of time that you're out there. Because whether you're out there for 3 months or 3 years, you've got to know that one, you can afford it, two, you can keep making money while you're out there, and three, that your stuff is taken care of while you're gone. So the first pillar of the grand plan crumbles when you're searching for a traditional partner, and the traditional partner comes from the old fashioned mindset of the family oriented wife that um, allows for the man to be the breadwinner. Now, I'm going to tell you, I don't expect to be the breadwinner where I'm the only person drawing in an income. I don't have a problem with it, but if she's got a good job, she's an executive banker, whatever the case may be, that's fine. Um, my personal focus, and I know a lot of men that think like I think, the personal focus would be more along the lines of the traditional family oriented person where she prioritizes the husband prioritizes the wife, and they both prioritize the kids equivocally. And beyond that, she can still chase her career and be supportive towards her career, and he can chase his career and be supportive towards his career. But the dynamic is that in some relationships, one person's career is going to take priority over another because somebody's got to stay home with the kids. Well, with the generations that we have now, I just realized we got to plug the. I just seen that light pop on, like, oh, the laptop is not plugged in. Hold on. As soon as I seen that, I was like, wait, where's my? There it is. All right. Now, what I was saying was is that with our long-standing generation of dads that are jumping up, willing to take care of their kids, I think that we have finally reached a point that even with the Gen Zs, that stay-at-home dads have no problem with working from home, doing whatever it is that they got to do from home, and mom be that Fortune 500 boss lady, as long as the respect of the masculine man still maintains in the household. And that's going to be like the only dynamic shift that a lot of cultures are not considering, especially the Western culture, because the traditional man that is expected to be a masculine man is only identified as a masculine man if he is the breadwinner, if he is the leader of the household, if he is protecting and providing. Uh, but without redefining masculinity, since we've already redefined feminism uh, femininity. Uh, if she can be masculine and still be feminine at the same time, in order for the dynamic to have a balance, because you have to have one leader and one follower. You can't have two leaders and no followers because nobody's following anybody. You would have to have a dynamic where his, um, I would say alternate masculinity, because I can't say femininity towards men, because I mean a non masculine man is not identified as a man in Western society, but an alternate masculine man would be able to shift and lead from the rear, allowing his alpha boss lady to go out and make those ends, and he stay at the house and do what needs to be done around the house, which is perfectly fine. But we have to think about when we're going to different countries, because typically we leave the United States to go to different countries to find a better way to go. We're looking for something different. So when we go to another country, coming from the US, where dating, for all its complexities, still has a certain script, certain roles, and a kind of dance that people do, especially around the masculinity and the providing part, men might carry that cultural baggage with them when they're going to other countries, assuming traditional meant the same thing everywhere, and figuring that in a country so close to nature and history, that idea of traditional would be even stronger. Well, if you don't do your history, you'll come to find that certain countries, that's not the thing. More so, you're going to see that traditional mindset further in Asia. Less so, you'll find it closer to Great Britain. So, guys that go to Norway, they'll be profoundly, almost comically wrong. So, the American playbook wasn't just useless in Norway, it's counterproductive. So, you have to learn a whole new game before you get out there. So, give you a few rules for trying to get out there to Norway and make yourself a little bit more successful, especially in relationships. So, rule number one, the equality isn't a buzzword like it is in the United States, it's an operating system. So, when you go to Norway, the moment you're on your first date, splitting the bill wasn't a one off, it was expected to be, and still is, a formal introduction to the core principle of Norwegian relationships: absolute equality, which we do not truly see in the United States. So going on a date in Norway wasn't making a statement or testing a man's capabilities by seeing if he's willing to pay for the whole bill, or seeing if he's capable of giving you extra money, or seeing what's going on with his finances. Females are acting on a default out there, where that setting for Norwegian society is that she covers herself through the dating phase, which would make dating a whole lot easier for guys in the United States, especially women who want those 5-star dinners. If she's willing to pay for her 5-star self, then it would make more sense, because a $250 a plate dinner for a person that don't even know your last name, I think is outrageous. I think that fiscally responsible, because dynamically, I look at it like this, because I know women are going to say, "Oh, well, he just broke. That's why he's saying that." But let's look at it like this, because if I wanted a partner that was financially responsible, because I mean, if you're getting a guy that's supposed to be able to take care of himself and take care of you and potentially take care of kids, you're looking for a guy who is financially responsible. Off of the financial responsibility aspect of things, if he is willing to spend $500 on me in one night without knowing who I am, and that is his standard behavior. The quantity of times that he does that out of a month is the quantity of money that he is throwing away on social interaction, not on bills, not on investment, not on anything else, which is a substantial waste of money. If he's throwing away $300 to $500 a night, 4 or more nights a week, upward of $1,500 a month, spending upward of $15,000 to $20,000 a year on just social interaction. That's a lot of money. Now, I know because the women are benefiting from it. Women are thinking, "Oh, no, that's all right. He can spend that kind of money on me." But if he's willing to do that with strangers on a regular basis, what makes you think he's going to stop because he's dating you? His normal spending habit is to waste upward of $20,000 a year on entertainment or social interaction. Now, my perspective of that is that that would not be a financially responsible man, uh, which means that if he's willing to take you on yacht parties and uh, uh, expensive dinners and movies and this, that, and the third on the first date, and he doesn't even know what your last name is, uh, he's not a good fit for you if you're looking for a financially stable man that's willing to build and grow. Because if he's willing to waste money when you first meet him, then he's not willing to save that money and invest that money wisely when you get with him. And that means you're going to end up with financial arguments throughout the relationship because he's going to be blowing money on things that he finds entertaining when you're trying to build a home. Now, coming from that dynamic, if you think about it, you don't want a guy who can make it rain on you in the club. You want a guy who's going to get you a cup of coffee and maybe a muffin at Starbucks and like stop until he finds a reason to spend more, right? Now, traditionally, we have had a long-standing situation in the United States where men are spending a bunch of money showing off what he's capable of financially until he impresses the girl enough for the girl to want to stay with that type of grandstanding till such time as you end up in the marriage. Now, at some point between her moving into his house and him proposing, she realized he don't got it like that, and if she decides to stay in that situation, uh, they would be trying to work towards something. But he's changing his whole financial expectation. So here with Norway, she paying for herself from day one, and that means that he doesn't have to grandstand because why take her to an overly expensive restaurant, potentially outside of her budget, to impress her when she's going to pay for herself? Now you can actually be more reasonable. In the US, a man insisting on paying is often chivalry, but in Norway, it can be seen as insulting, implying a power imbalance and something that not a lot of men can think about because when we assume that she's not paying, we assume that she can't afford to pay, or worse, that he's trying to buy her affections, which American women have never thought about that. Well, actually, I can't say never. They probably have thought about it because a lot of times women will imply that there's going to be no physical actions after the date to let the man know on notice that while he's paying for everything, that he ain't getting nothing out of the deal. And I think that's wild that for some reason we have connected spending money to sexual favor, even when we're trying to look for a partner. You still make that transaction where the time we spend with one another means nothing because it's money for sex and everything else in between. But you got to find one of the reasons why dating has sucked in 2026 going forward that a lot of adults can agree with is because we're looking for the wrong stuff on the first date. Um, Even though this dynamic is subtle, it's a massive cultural canyon, and independence is the highest virtue in a partner for both men and women over in Norway. There is a power dynamic in the United States, though, because in the United States, men are expected to pay to show that they can, but women are expected to be in charge, even though they're not spending any money. I don't understand how that works. because the more money the man is capable of paying, I'm guessing the more sex he can get out of the girl, but she's still in charge. This isn't just a quirky dating norm, it reflects the country's entire social and economic structure. So in 2024, the gender gap report in Norway ranked third, having closed 87.5% of its gender gap. Impressive, right? And this isn't just a plaque on a wall, it's lived reality. How you doing, Cassie? Good to see you. Um, Women have one of the highest rated workforces with female participation on the planet over in Norway. So, ladies, if y'all are trying to uh, get up there and make it do what it do as like an alpha boss, like Norway is one of those countries you can get yourself into. Yo, yo, okay. The dual income household isn't an aspiration, it's the standard there. It's becoming a standard in the United States, but it's not becoming a standard by choice. It's becoming a standard due to poverty. Since the working wage and the living wage are not the same, you need two working incomes to come together to match the living wage in the United States. So a two-party household in the United States just seems to happen that way. But in Norway, the idea of a stay-at-home parent is almost exotic because as the system is built around both partners being financially independent and professionally ambitious, you're probably going to have like a nanny or a housekeeper or something like that in the home over in Norway, which is not something that we typically do in America, unless we're like everybody's got six figures. So the idea of being a provider in Norway is obsolete for men before you even think about unpacking your bags. So you don't provide for your partner in Norway, you build with them as an equal, which is not something that we do in the United States. Men spend 41% of their income on women in the United States. And we don't have an explanation for it because out of 100% of the money that she gets, 23% of it uh, subsidizes her income. So the difference between the 41% that men spend on women and the 23% that women benefit from it, there's like 10 to about 18% or so that's just being wasted. And I don't understand why couples don't see that and turn those lavish gifts off and invest that 18% because y'all don't have to break up to realize he's spending too much money on making you smile when y'all could be smiling off of that big investment that y'all have in savings where y'all can quit early and live a good life because I mean again if he's spending 20, 30, 40 grand a year on you while you're thinking yeah my man loved me because he spent $1,000 worth a month on gifts for me or $2,000 a month worth of gifts on me girl if you could retire and still get that money coming in and your lifestyle would still be the way I think that being able to quit working for somebody who don't respect you would be way better than having somebody spoil you a little bit, then you still got to go to work with somebody that you hate. That's just my thought. Let's see. Said I'm worried about my two teenage sons financially making it here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Rent seems unreachable, and we're going back to where whole family in same house. Uh, most of the states in the center of the United States are a little bit cheaper than the ones towards the edge because you understand that New York and Florida, California, Texas, they're pretty expensive. The high name brand places are pretty expensive. Uh, the boys You got teenage sons, so they haven't quite hit the ground running yet. They don't have a lot of financial literacy yet. They might know how to go to work and then balance their budget and not overspend, but they don't really have a lot of knowledge about taking the money that they make and putting it towards uh, making more money, make money for them. So the dynamic is that if they have a job, whatever that job may be, is typically a show up and put in your effort and get paid. It said priorities got to be put in place, self discipline. Yes. Well, the priorities, 19 and 18. Their priorities, if they grew up in a really good home, and I say it like this because this is probably part of the reason why their priorities aren't in order. If they grew up in a really good home, they didn't have to struggle. Since they didn't have to struggle because their parents got them everything that they needed, they don't want for anything, which means they don't know how to go out and get for anything. So now, when they want stuff, instead of them prioritizing those basic bills, they prioritize personal desire. And then they realize they've got basic bills and now they don't have enough money to cover the basic bills. If they grew up in the struggle, if they grew up in a household where there wasn't enough money going around, they would prioritize going to work. And then after they prioritize going to work, then they would come back with more taking care of bills and less taking care of personal desires. So being able to work, I was stacking my bread since 15. That's good. Congratulations, Cool Breeze. So when they're out there starting to work and they start to put their money together to make ends meet, they realize that the cost of living costs far more than what they thought. And truth be told, the average minimum wage job, you're probably going to need a roommate to cover a standard living. So, like a two-bedroom, like the boys are going to have to get an apartment together, or get a roommate with a best friend, college buddy. When you go off to college, you do dorm life. You start seeing some universities got them paying $5,000 and $10,000 a month to share the room with three roommates, where each kid is putting up um what, 5 grand for living. I don't think it's per month. I think it's per semester, but it's still a lot of money to be putting to have three roommates. That's not, and three roommates is like three people in the room. Like y'all got bunk beds and stuff. That's not like that's not like three people in a house where each person's got their own room, or four people in a house where each person got their own room. It's like there's four of y'all in one room. That's too much for me. They call that dorm life, and I'm like, nah, son. I would save money and have my own place. I would $1,000 a month for a one bedroom before I 1,500 or $2,000 a month for four roommates. I ain't got time for all that. Is that will real estate prices in some areas collapse by 20 to 30% in 2026? Not asking for a prediction, but just an opinion. Well, no, it wouldn't collapse by 20 to 30% in 2026. And the reason why it wouldn't collapse in 2023, or it wouldn't collapse by 20 to 30% in 2026, is because it just slashed prices on interest rates. We just covered that on Monday. And since they slashed prices on interest rates, you're going to start seeing the interest rates decline on real estate. And unless we have another shutdown in January that lasts us until March, we are likely to see a smooth running where the individuals that are able to put their real estate up for sale should be able to have better capabilities of closing the deals. Now, they're going to be putting in a lot more effort to close real estate deals. And since they're going to be closing real estate deals through 2026, you're likely to see more of a positive outcome with the sales, because I mean the interest rates are lower, backed by the government, stuff to that effect, FDICs. And if you start looking into things like the down payment assistance programs to cover the spread, Typically, a lot of people have a hard time with buying a house because they don't have that 20, 30, $40,000 to put down on the house. And if you've got down payment assistance programs up to $25,000, that could cover a large quantity of the closure where you don't have to put any money down on the property and you just got to pay the mortgage. And if they're factoring that in, yeah, you might pay a little bit more per month on your mortgage, but if you went and got to a reasonably priced house for the in a reasonably priced neighborhood, you might get you a 150, $200,000 house and only have to uh, pay a short quantity of money, like $1,000 a month, which is a four-bedroom house for $1,000 a month is way better than a $1,500 a month apartment. So it's way better than dorm rooms and bunk beds. He doesn't remember bunk beds. That's what I'm trying to tell you. But can you imagine bunk beds on both sides of the room though? Bunk beds on both sides of the room. Four grown men, bunk beds on both sides of the room. I ain't got time. And then they paying rent for that. Then the fights, who gets the top bunk? You ain't lying, bro. You ain't lying. You ain't lying. They gonna be who's top bunk or who's bottom bunk. It's like prison, but you're paying for it. But no, I don't think that the stock market is going to crash by 20 or 30% in 2026. Uh, it would have to take a policy change. Interest rates would have to go up. Tariffs would have to do something crazy on top of that. Um, People would have to not be making money for a substantial period of time because there's two parts to real estate. One part is going to be the people building up the properties and putting them up for sale, and that is slowing down because of the lack of workers, and that's slowing down because of the tariffs, and then the people being able to pay for it, and that is speeding up because of the low interest rates. So it is still somewhat of a seller's market, kind of tinkering into a buyer's market. It hasn't quite gotten into a buyer's market because there isn't enough product out there. It's kind of almost balanced, but it's starting to tinker into a buyer's market where there's going to be more stuff for sale, or at least the stuff that is for sale has been for sale so long that the seller is willing to reduce the price, making it a buyer's market. It's not to the highest bidder; it's to whoever gets here first, because they're trying to get rid of the properties. Now, the second rule you want to think about when you go to Norway, you want to forget the grand romantic gestures, and you got to think about uh, Kos, because as an American, romance scripts are written by Hollywood. So big grand gestures, dramatic declarations, expensive dinners, and surprise vacations. That's what women are looking for in the United States. And men are programmed to believe that the intensity of the feelings should match the scale of the action and the financial investment in that. I completely disagree with that as well. I could have extreme intensity in the romantic feelings and do something cheap, like sticky notes about the romantic feelings all over the house. That's like $1. I could do flashcards of romantic gestures, like hidden in different places. Hide them in places that you got a good woman that actually cleans stuff. She's cleaning behind things and stuff. The romantic gestures. I'm gonna put a cue card behind the microwave, behind the refrigerator, behind the washer and dryer, and that's a two-part scenario there. Because if she found it, that means she was back there cleaning. So I know she got that spot that I saw when I was back there. But you can go even further and put something in her lunch box, make her lunch, put something in her briefcase. You could stick a small letter into her suit, her work outfit. You guys could do things like um, put something on the car keys, put something on the steering wheel. I used to leave roses on the car, stuff like something on the dashboard, not just hanging outside of the car. Just put some roses on the dashboard. Then when you get in the car, you can't really tell. It's cold outside, windows all fogged up. You start the engine, you look forward, you see roses on the dashboard, stuff like that. Where it's not that expensive because like they're plastic First of all, they're not real. They're like $3 at a gas station. But it's the principle of the fact that you saw 'em, you like them, and you're on your way to work thinking about this grand gesture. But again, it's a grand gesture. I just don't do it on the expensive side. But naturally, you're going to try this in a different country, and in some countries it doesn't work. So an elaborate date night that you have planned, designed to impress the other person, is met with polite but very real senses of confusion because you're speaking a different language to them since they're expecting everything to be universal. The Norwegian love language isn't about grand gestures, it's about a concept called kos, often translated as coziness, but meaning so much more because kos is the art of simple, shared pleasures, light candles, and sharing a bottle of wine at home, which we need to start doing that because a $20 bottle of wine at Walmart and some Netflix, that's a $45 movie. $50 with the gas it took for you to go to Walmart and come back. Way cheaper, way easier. A quick walk in the forest, enjoying shared silence. Bring the dog with you. Now it's a family affair. You know what I mean? And you guys can have good times together without having to spend so much money. Or try cuddling under a blanket while it's snowing. Again, with that bottle of wine and that Netflix, or you don't even need to have Netflix. If you got a smart TV, go get the background of the fireplace. You get the background of the fireplace, put your little space heater in front of the TV, and then you guys wrap up under a blanket, sip you some wine, and just enjoy each other's company, the simple sides of life. Now, we don't talk about these things. I need to do a show about this coming soon about some cheap ways that we can enjoy our company with one another here in America. But this is what they're doing in other countries is the little things that really impress one another because it's the feeling of warmth, safety, and contentment. And that level of intimacy is not a performance. See what I'm saying? Uh, is it really easy as downsizing and why not? Oh, simplifying your life back to the basics and well, make it right. Well, a lot of us typically consolidate our lives after catastrophic failure. We typically try to keep up with the Joneses on a regular basis, and our goal is to make enough money to cover the style of living that we want to have, but our style of living is expensive. Our style of living is well above $100,000 a year, which is one of the reasons why the average woman expects men to make more than 100,000 a year, not specifically because she wants to be lazy and live off of his assets, because part of it is that. But the other part of it is that whatever she's bringing to the table, her 40, 50, 60,000 a year is going to match his 100,000 a year and they're going to live $120,000 a year lifestyle because of all of the luxury sides of life above the standard of living that is expected in a relationship. Now, once two people get together and they see how much it costs to be in America, they start thinking to themselves, oh shit, it's not going to work that way. And a lot of times they didn't get that $100,000 a year man. So now they really like, oh shit, we got to both put in double overtime. Very few people think in America we need to downsize. We need to go from the four-bedroom house to a two-bedroom apartment. We need to downsize from making these expensive payments with this brand new car to owning a car that has no payments to it. We don't think about that. What we think about is let's get a raise, let's put in double overtime, and let's maintain what we have. Pay off the car that we have, pay off the house that we have, and just, kind of level off here. Now, if you can, they do. But if you can't, you struggle and you guys fight about money because you still have that lavish lifestyle mentality. Both men and women do. And somebody is going to impulse buy on something. And that impulse buy is going to be outside of the budget because you're barely making ends meet, but you're trying to keep up the mentality of being capable of living above your means. And that image, typically it's financial showboating, and that financial showboating actually hurts the relationship. Eventually y'all break up, and then when y'all separate, then y'all are pissed off. Y'all gotta split everything that y'all had. But like I tell you guys before, if each one of y'all took $20,000 of your money and put it together every year and invested 40,000 a year, y'all be a millionaire inside of 20 years. You have well over 500 to almost 600,000 in 10 years, where you're still getting that 15 to 18% interest back on it. You would be making more money, close to 100,000 a year, off of that, to where y'all could quit y'all jobs and y'all would not have to work no more after 10 years. But y'all could really do good if y'all just hung in there for another 10 years, enjoying the fruits of your labors and being able to go far better in more places and still maintain that standard of living that you have if y'all just grinded it out that way. Is that let's be single and brew home wine on waterfront location. Uh, location women maybe on the weekends. That's that's actually a pretty good investment opportunity, because being able to brew wine and then sell that in a waterfront location, uh, women would love to see that, and men wouldn't have a problem with paying for that home brewed wine. Happiness, that's it for real. Pretty much what people are going for, is that simple happiness. Now the preference for simplicity is going to be tied to an unwritten social law in Scandinavia called Jan Television. Hold on, let me say that. I'm gonna try that again. Jan Television. There it is. Jan Television. Its core tent is you are not to think you're anyone special. Now that we know that, because women tell us that on a regular basis in America, you ain't shit. Now y'all have a better way of saying it. Remind yourself that you are no one special. You might be special to me, but you are nobody special. So while in America, we might try to prove our worth with a grand gesture, trying to impose that we are the best thing since sliced bread. A Norwegian shows affection through small, consistent, private acts of care. And actually, I think that's more sustainable, because less more often is consistent expression of affection. Because when you think about how we handle it in America, the way we do things, we would put up a large grand gesture for Valentine's Day. You get nothing until Mother's Day if you're a mother, but if not, you might see a cookout on Juneteenth, another one on July 4th. Then you might see another one on Cinco de Mayo. Uh, then you have your Labor Day, Veterans Day. We're wasting money throughout the year, but the next time you get a grand gesture is your birthday, and then the next grand gesture would be Thanksgiving, and then the next grand gesture would be Christmas, and then the next grand gesture would be New Year's. And if you got kids, you might get a grand gesture for Halloween, right? That's for the kids though. If you're a single adult, you're going to do a grand gesture for yourself for Halloween, because you're going to be out there putting on your sexy cheerleader outfit, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, trying to pick up somebody on Halloween night. But if you're married or if you're dating, not quite so the thing. But every other, but think about it. After New Year's, nothing until February. After February, nothing. If you have kids, it's Easter. But if you're adults with no kids, there's nothing in Easter. You have well after Easter, if you're not entertaining yourself with Mardi Gras, your next gesture is going to be October, November, December, your birthday. You know what I mean? So you're not appreciating your partner throughout the year. So the way Scandinavians are doing it, where if they're recognizing each other at least every month, if not every week, those grand gestures get spread out throughout the year to more frequent recognition. And that's going to be a lot better. So trying to wow someone with extravagance can backfire in Scandinavia. And it's seen as bragging or extremely insincere. And I agree with that. I don't think that we should be doing it. I think that we're wasting our money on it because not a lot of people appreciate it. They actually expect it in the United States. So if you don't come with the grand gesture, you're thrown away. That's okay. I'll let myself out. So you got to learn to stop performing romance and start experiencing it. So true connections in Norway isn't found in a five-star restaurant, but in a quiet comfort of a shared sofa. So that um, home brewed wine on a waterfront location, fantastic idea. Number three, you want to, the date doesn't really exist, at least not at first. So in the United States, if you like someone, you ask them on a date. The word itself creates a framework and uh, sets an intention. It's an event with a romantic subtext. It can be awkward, but at least you know where you stand. In Norway, that concept is largely missing in the early stages, which was utterly baffling for a lot of American investors. Because when you go there, the first few attempts to ask a woman on a date were met with a polite deflection, not rejection, but redirection. So a bunch of us are going for a hike on Saturday. You should come. Or my friends and I are grabbing a beer after work. Why don't you join? See, I don't know why we don't do this type of stuff anymore in America, to be real with you. We, as men, fail with this dynamic. We go, and I don't know why we stopped doing it this way, but what we do now is that we go, we pick one hot chick out of a group of hot chicks and try to get that one hot chick to go somewhere with us. And I'm thinking to myself, what happened to the 60s and 70s where there's five of them and five of us? Why can't the 10 of us go do something fun and we all pay for ourselves and just go hang out as a group? Now, if we did, it would be that 70s show style behavior. And if we did that five or six times, we enjoy each other's company. Everybody's getting along. If the girl that I'm interested in is interested in me, I'm going to be able to tell. And by that fifth or seventh date of us going out as groups, we start deciding to go somewhere one on one. That used to be the old school dating phase. The wingman concept came from that as well because back in the day, if I wanted to date this chick, my two guys would date her friends so that the three of us would go somewhere with the three of them so that the one that I have, I would be able to get because we all work together as a team. Even if theirs fell apart, I got the one that I was after because we went out there in groups. That don't happen no more. People fake and jealous ladies. you, you know what? You got some women in the group that don't want the other women in the group to be successful, and that's gonna be the loudest woman in the group. That's gonna be throwing shade at the guy who's trying to talk to a different girl to prevent that guy from getting that girl when that girl might actually be happy with that guy, but she doesn't have the courage to speak up over the loud one, and the loud one is going to force her to be single. I don't know why This feminist movement got women sabotaging each other and then promoting negative behavior. But hey, look, I ain't trying to say all women like that. She said they all broke nowadays. But Nicole, the thing is that all men ain't broke. It's just that all men don't get together. And look, all women ain't broke neither. It's just that all the men don't get together and go out and find a group of girls and all go out as a group no more. Because one, it would be considered a triple date. We wouldn't be hanging out as friends. That dynamic has to be established, and it's American culture that we have to establish that we're going on a date. We can't just say, hey, uh Usher's in town, we're going to the concert. Do y'all are gonna join the concert with us? We have to buy tickets for the girls to attend for free in order for them to come with us to the concert. See what I'm saying? We can't say, oh, well, we all have something in common. Shouldn't we just all go together? Like going to the beach. Let's meet up at the beach. If it was summertime, it's hot out. We were thinking about going to the beach. How about y'all join us? Y'all don't have to ride in the car with us. We could go guys in one car, girls in another car, and we meet at the beach. And then we can spend the whole day out there having a good time together. That was like 30 years ago kind of dating. Now, the guy has to pay in order for the girl to be willing to go. It's not that, and in Scandinavia, not she's paying for half of this, if not majority of it. So if I say let's go to the beach, she's like, I got the coolers, we got, you know what I mean? And that's different. He said that 70 shows an instant classic. It is. It is. Nowadays happening. It's different the way we got things going right now. Truth be told, it's happening without drama. But truth be told, today, right now, if a man wants to take a woman out in the United States, he has to pitch the perfect date idea in order for him to get her phone number. Now, if he got her name, it's ideally her first name or a nickname or a street name or a hashtag name, because a lot of times women don't give their real name on the first encounter because of safety reasons and other such stuff. But if I don't have your government name, we're already off to a bad start, because you got to think about the fact that I have to convince you, based on how much money I'm willing to spend on this date, for you to give me your phone number so that I can take you out on a date with your name as opposed to going to my phone as like Peaches or something like that, when that is not your real name. And I'm trying to figure out why I got to go from a large Starbucks coffee to steak and lobster, and I don't even know who you are, which is what I said earlier in the show. If that's how we're doing it, we're off to a bad start, because if she's getting a financially stable guy and he is willing to waste a bunch of money on a complete stranger, that's equivalent to giving $1,000 to every homeless person you pass by on the street, because you don't know the person that you're spending all this money on. And you're spending all this money to try to find out who this person is without knowing if this person is worth continuing to spend this money on. Now, from the perspective of the person having the money spent on them, yeah, it's a fun free day. But that is not the mentality of finding a lifelong partner, because you're going into it for entertainment. You're not going into it evaluating the logic and rationale of the person. So, since you're going in it with the wrong intentions, if you get caught up in the moment, if you get caught up in the expensive stuff, then you're going places with this person and you're enjoying the fact that they're giving you a lifestyle that you couldn't afford to give to yourself, or you didn't have time to give to yourself, because while you could afford it, you work too much to be able to do it. The fact is that this person is sweeping you off of your feet with expensiveness. But when y'all get together, guess what happens to the relationship? It dies off a little bit, because guess what's not happening anymore? He's not sweeping you off your feet no more. You live in a house with him. You're sweeping under his feet now. Y'all live in a house together. So that enthusiasm from the beginning of the relationship dies down a little bit. So because of the way that Scandinavia does it, it makes a lot more sense for you to just go places with them and hang out with them in groups so that they can get to know you better in a group. And group settings are safer because women don't have to worry about being snatched up. Men don't have to worry about getting caught up because if there's like 10 of y'all, you can make sure that the ones that you're talking to are grown, right? You're not going to be caught up like Kelly. So if you spend weeks in groups activities, completely unable to read the signs from the individual person, you might miss some of the commitment. But this is a date by committee because if you're going out on a date in a group, if your friends approve of this person based on how they see him treat you, you're able to get that green light to do the one on one. Likewise, if your friends agree with this person based on how she behaves with you, then you're able to get that green light. Actually, that makes it a lot better because dating in this fashion, you're vetting your partner with your social group. You're vetting your romantic partner with your social group. So instead of this choice that you made impulsively being introduced to your squad after the fact, your squad verifies that this is a good choice before you get into it. And typically, I think this is a better way to go because if you have friends that know more about you than you pay attention to yourself, and then you go and meet somebody and they're like, nah, that's not your type, bro. That's a bad call, bro. Instead of you saying, oh, I don't want to hear that, I'm gonna go for it anyway, and then it turns into a bad relationship, you can actually have somebody tap you on the shoulder and be like, this one's not it, and then you could just kind of like walk out. Y'all could have like some kind of gang sign or something like that that lets you know, like, run. And then you could just like make up an excuse and kind of remove yourself from the, or I had a good night, have a good day, and then don't answer the phone no more. You know, ghost them. Nicole says, sounds like a healthy attitude. It's a better way to go because think about right now, Nicole, you go out with your girls on a weekend and y'all are going to live it up, especially this weekend, it's Christmas weekend, whatever parties, you already know that a lot of the Christmas parties are going to be tuned towards the ladies getting free with very little expense. Y'all gonna put on some sexy outfits. Three, five, seven of y'all gonna have y'all on table. One guy is gonna walk up and specifically he might try to talk to just you, right? All the other girls at the table sitting there awkwardly being ignored by this man are all gonna be bitter bitches. No woman has ever said, did you come alone or do you have some friends with you?" No woman has ever said that. She takes the one-on-one engagement from him, and if she's into it, she's into it. If she's not, she's not. Or if her cock blocking friend is not into it, she's gonna shut it down. Now, sometimes you got some of your sisterhood that's supporting it. Go get him, girl. He looked like a good man. But at the end of the day, some of them don't. He said, "Oh yeah, Merry Christmas, this and that." Yeah, I pay attention to the days. I pay attention to the days. But you rarely see you're at the table, five of y'all. You got three, four, five guys at the other table, and all five of them come over and come talk to you. And if that were to start happening again, the bitter bitches in your group would have a dude to talk to. Which gives y'all the ability to hang out. Because remember bowling night, Nicole, bowling night used to be that night where you and two, three, four of your friends would go to the bowling alley and the guy that you're with and two, three, four of his friends will go to the bowling alley and y'all will team up. It would never be, well, it could be guys versus girls, but usually it would be y'all would pair up. Y'all would pair up. You would have like eight of y'all in the thing, and then four over here and four over here, two guys, two girls, two guys, two girls, and they're going at it. But it's the guy and the girl that you want to date with the guy and the girl that you want to date, and they're partnered up, and y'all are all sitting there in a group having casual conversations, joking with one another, playing, and each one of y'all is taking turns. You got one person bowling while the other seven are hanging out, socializing with one another. A night of bowling probably would run you for a group of eight, probably $300, $500, because everybody's got to buy a pair of shoes, and then you got to buy the lane, But depending, it might actually be cheaper than that because I mean the lanes, if you get a all night bowling membership for the lane, and then y'all just share the lane, you actually save a lot of money, especially if everybody chipped in. And y'all are all there all night, you probably still would be spending $300 when you think about the food and drinks. But you think about the dynamic there is that the awkwardness of looking one person in the face and talking to them all night versus the ability to socialize with the group and get to know stuff. They'll be telling stories about each other, hopefully not embarrassing ones, and y'all will be able to enjoy each other's company. And then a little bit about the other person before y'all start doing the one-on-ones. Because ultimately, even though he asks you out on a date, when it's a one-on-one scenario, it is still essentially a blind date because this is a stranger who met you on a sidewalk, got your phone number, and is going to take you somewhere tomorrow or this weekend. And I'm going to be real. When, Nicole, did you ask him what his last name was? Because typically when you guys exchange names, you give a first name, he's going to give a first name. Y'all are going to exchange numbers. Then y'all go to the restaurant. Y'all are gonna hang out. Y'all might go to the movies. Y'all are gonna hang out. Maybe I'll call you later, kind of thing. And then you tell your homegirls about it. When did you ask him for his last name on that first date? Because it wasn't the first question that came up. It's a blind date. But if y'all were hanging out with one another and y'all were in the throes of having a good time with each other, you would have been able to figure that stuff out before you get out on that first date. And we're going to be touching base with Norwegian expenses as well, but I wanted to touch base with the dating aspect of things because this was when I found this out, I was like, whoa, because this is the old way of how we used to do things, but we forgot how to do this, I think, in the 80s. So ironically, Norwegians don't really date in the American sense of things. They hang out, which is something that we don't do anymore. Relationships almost always grow from within a circle. So you guys, just like that 70s show, would kind of come together in a group. Yeah, like the 70s, the guys, they would come together in a group, and that group would just go places and do stuff. And uh, after you guys got really comfortable with one another and you kind of picked your person out of the group, that's when you start doing one-on-ones away from the group. And that's where friends started before dating. Now in modern time, we go on a one-on-one date. We skip that part. We don't even try to be friends first. We try to go on a date, impress you to either start a physical relationship or get into a commitment. And if it works, then we start trying to build a friendship style romantic relationship. But the choice is now either from a stranger, romantic partner, or just friends, meaning no opportunity for romance. And that's where the friend zone becomes like off limits for men because if this is a woman of interest for you, you cannot be her friend. But if you guys were friends where you had no interest in her before that and you were friends in the beginning, then if you build up to it, if a romantic interest becomes from that, then you're chasing an interest with someone you already know, as opposed to trying to get to know the person that you have a romantic interest in, which again goes back to the whole wingman scenario. If I like her and she's got two friends, I got to call two of my homies and say, hey, wingman this group thing with me. We're going to go out, we're going to go talk to these girls, we're going to see what happens. You might not end up with the girl that you thought you were ending up with because you're going to the group. There's three of them, there's three of you. There was one you were thinking about, and she likes one of your friends. You end up with the other one. But by the end of the night, or by the end of the week or the month, or whatever the case may be, whoever partners off with whoever partners off with, that's when you guys start having that dynamic, right? You're going to meet through friends. You're going to have shared hobbies because you guys are all going to the same places, hanging out at the same time. Or you're going to have like those cabin trips, spending time in low pressure group settings where it's not always about, oh, let's go back to my place or go back to your place and knock boots. It's just about having a good time, right? Because living life, truthfully, living life is supposed to be about building memories. And half of this show is about, throughout the week, half of this show is about making enough money so that you can stop working for somebody else and continue to have money coming in so you can actually live life so that you can enjoy making memories with other people. And the other half is to work out all the issues that's preventing you from having that free time to spend in a positive fashion with the people that matter to you. Because if you're pissed off at your partner, you're not going nowhere with them, you know? And then if you're spending too much money trying to impress your partner, you can't go nowhere with them because you can't afford nothing. Now, over time with this dynamic, if sparks are there, you naturally start spending more time alone. It's going to be an organic thing, but it's a slow burn process, not an instant dive in there. Now, this is going to explain the reserved but kind paradox that many foreigners notice in Norwegian behaviors. They're not cold, they're just private, right? So they're not going to be proactively on the first date tonguing you down in front of the group, doing body shots and whatnot. That's that coyote ugly behavior that we need to cut out in the American culture. They respect their personal space, and the idea of approaching a stranger in a coffee shop for their number is for many and terrifying breach of social protocol. So this slow group based approach is a filter. It ensures that you get to know the person as a person, not just as a romantic prospect, before any pressure is applied. And for any American used to a more direct, efficient approach, it was maddening and very slow. Great teaching tonight. Look, I got a lot of them. I am a male driven podcast from the male's perspective, but I come from a uniformity perspective, which is a lot different than some of the other male driven podcasts that you have. Where and I'm not a big fan with a lot of them. I watch some of them. Some of the stuff that the guys talk about makes sense, but what I don't like about it is that in order for them to make sense, they have to make a woman look stupid by having her talk, and the women volunteer to talk. And what they say does make them look less intelligent than what they really are based on the way they try to defend their opinions. Nobody's opinion is right or wrong, but you should be able to make your point without having to make someone else look like they don't have any sense. And I have not found, besides this podcast, I have not found any other male driven podcast where a man is not making his point by proving that she doesn't know what she's talking about. Because she does have logic, and her logic does come from her own personal experiences. However, there is an alternative, and that alternative is not necessarily that she's wrong. It is that she didn't think about it in a different construct. Because remember, the benefactor of or beneficiary of a social engagement is going to map this out based on them benefiting. They're never going to observe these dynamics from the provider aspect because they never have to provide. So it's not fair because I'm supposed to benefit. That's going to be the mentality. Now, if the shoe was on the other foot and you put that person into the provider aspect and you say, well, hey, hold on. If you were the provider and you were not benefiting as the provider, what will your observation be? That's when the other person gets the aha moment and, like, oh, well, I would feel deprived. Now you know how the other side of the room feels. It doesn't devalue your perspective, it enlightens you to the construct of the reason why the provider, which is the men, are pulling out of a dual engagement because the men are trying too hard to earn your affection with his money, and women are trying too hard to sell their physical attraction for his money, because women that dress sexy put on sexy outfits so that men can spend a lot of money on them to impress them. But the women are not putting on that sexy outfit to find a competent and capable and financially stable man. They're putting it on to get attention. They're putting it on to get to go on those dates, but they're not putting it on because that's going to be my baby daddy. That's going to be the guy that's going to put my kid through NASA college kind of situation. Then the guys are spending their money on the girls that some guys are spending money on girls that they hope are easy. The other guys are spending money on girls because of how they look, not how smart she is, not what kind of job she does, how she looks, right? So the woman's education and the woman's career is not the reason why the man is talking to her right now. And the woman's not talking to this man because of his personality or his character. She's talking to him because of how much money he's spending on her. Because both people walk in with the wrong observations. That's the reason why the dating game is so messed up. So I bring you guys a lot of education about, and we're actually talking about Norwegian culture, but I'm comparing it to American culture and what we forgot as Americans. And if we and this is the main reason why, ladies, that men grab passports and go to other countries, because what they're doing in Norway right now is what we used to do in America 40, 50 years ago, 60, 70 years ago, right? When we say the old way, the traditional way, the way things used to be, this is the kind of stuff that we be talking about. Women just think, oh, well, we want women to be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen, raising babies. And that's not the thing. We want social interaction to go back to not being about how much money is in my pocket and be about who I am when I come to talk to you. And we want it to go back to being valued for what we're willing to do and what we're capable of doing, as far as making sure that everything that you need is covered, as opposed to we've got to, pop bottles of rosé on a yacht kind of thing. Many cultures are shocked by the direct approach of many Americans. They consider it rude. You're right. That is true. And you got to be careful with that because you try to swing that swing over in Asia and it's not going to work out. Now I understand why we are the least married. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And truthfully, no offense to black women, but one of the reasons why black women are going to be less married than other cultures is specifically because black women have come from a um, power dynamic. You grew up in the hood, not necessarily all the time, but you grew up in a struggle, and in that struggle, you had to have dominance to be respected. You have had to be dominant your whole life to be respected. To get to where you wanted to be in your career, you had to be in charge. You don't know how to turn that off. Now, when you try to find a man, you have become the man you're looking for. When women say that they're a 10, there's two problems that I have with that because you're not gauging yourself as a person. You're gauging yourself as what you expect the man to be. And you could be a 10. Everything that you look for in a man, that's what you've become. And you're a 10 on that dynamic. But if you identify yourself as a 10, you have to understand the other half of this that I don't agree with, that I don't appreciate. It's not about self esteem. If you believe that you are a perfect 10 out of 10, that means that you have no room to improve. You are flawless. And that's a lie. Everybody's flawed. You're a 9 at best, 9.5 on a great day. But if you had to change anything about you to walk outside of your house, you're not a 10. If you got to Photoshop your photos, you're not a 10. Anything that you got to do to come from getting out of the shower, going to bed without doing no skincare treatment, rolling out of bed and putting on some clothes and going outside looking just like that. If you got something to do in between them three things, you're not a 10. Then outside of looks, you have attitude. That's part of who you are. And you can't tell me that the way that y'all turn y'all back on good men that walk up to you because of how you dress, and y'all shut these men down in the most aggressive way possible, probably because you're having a bad day, not because the dude approached you inappropriately. You just having a bad day. This might be the eighth or ninth guy that has approached you today, and you are just tired of being approached like a celebrity. But you put that outfit on to get approached. Now, that level of aggression is going to turn off a good man. Now, that man might have been your prince, but you didn't shut him down. You didn't find out who he was. You didn't interact with him. You didn't, just kind of get to know the guy, interview him a little bit. If he took time out of his day to stop doing what he was doing and follow you where you was going, you could have at least showed him the respect to find out who he was and what he was about, not how much money he got, but what he was about. What's his character? What's his personality? What's his family upbringing? Ask some left field questions that you would ask a man that you might want to marry and find out what kind of dude this is instead of where you going to take me and how much money you're going to spend on me on the first date. I don't want to go to the Cheesecake Factory. You know what I mean? You talking about how much he's going to impress you, not what does he have to offer you in society outside of his money. If you, as women, if y'all take his money off the table, because y'all are supposed to be alpha boss ladies, y'all are supposed to be self-sustainable, if not independently successful. So you shouldn't give a shit about how much money he makes. So if you take his career off the table, what does he bring to the table? See, and I tell women all the time, if y'all take sex off the table, what do y'all bring to the table? If you take his career off the table, what does he bring to the table? How else can he improve you outside of his stuff? Because that's his character, that's his personality, that's his efforts in your ability to succeed. And you don't see none of that when he opened his wallet. And that's why y'all are going to be married the least, because y'all are going to fight your way through life. Then you're going to fight your way into this relationship. Then you're going to fight your man because you got with him because of what he paid for. He's not what you wanted, but he's spending the money you wanted a man to spend. Now you're trying to fight him to change him into the man that you wish he would have been, but you wasn't looking at that because love is blind when he's spending all his money on you. And now that he ain't spending all that money on you no more, now you're looking at the bullshit ass attitude that he got. You're looking at that trifling mentality that he got. You're looking at that procrastination that he had that you never saw when he was spending all that money on you. Then the other thing y'all gonna see is his wasteful behavior that originally you were benefiting from because he was wasting it on you. But now that he got you, he's not wasting it on you. Now he's wasting it on his hobbies, but he's still wasting money. So he went from expensive dates with you to spending all his money on his Xbox, spending all his money on his PlayStation, on his car, on stereo systems, on his new outfit. You seen a man with gold chains around his neck. Ooh, he's flashy, right? I like him. He got that thug look, right? Then when y'all trying to buy a house, but he done bought him a $20,000 gold herringbone chain. You know what I mean? You pissed off because you ain't gonna be able to put that chain on the table for the down payment on the house. See what I'm saying? Y'all not thinking about that. You have to look for what you want out of the man besides his money. So doing this, taking it back to this level, is probably going to make your dating game a little bit more successful. You'll find marriage a lot faster if you find a guy with better characteristics that match your expectations, because middle-aged women, 35, 40, 45 years old, y'all know what y'all want. And a lot of women wonder, why does a man prefer a 20-year-old woman than a 35, 40, 50-year-old woman that knows what she wants? And that's because she don't give a shit about what he needs or what he wants. And that is the biggest issue, because at least 18, 19, 20, 25, that girl will at least try to care about what he wants. The usually, and you can remember, because it ain't been that long, you can remember how much effort you put into your first two or three relationships, how much effort you put into pleasing your man in the first two or three relationships, five relationships at best. And you can remember somewhere between 5 and 10, you stop giving a shit about these men. And 20, 30 guys down the line, whether they were relationships or just hookups, you know what you want out of the deal. You have your expectations out of the deal. And if he meets those expectations, he can stay until he doesn't meet those expectations. Then he can leave and the next one can show up. But at no point after 10, 15, 20, are you thinking, man, I wonder what this man wants out of a woman in his life. And do I want to do that for him? No. You thinking, shit, I'm trying to buy me a new house. I'm trying to get me a new car. He better have a 720 credit score, no bankruptcies, no felonies. But are you the woman that he wants? That's the reason why the men are getting the younger women. Because not only are some men, because we're in a generation now where men are trying to be fathers, they're not just looking for women that can still produce children. They're looking for a woman that's willing to cooperate. And cooperating means, while you know what you want, you're willing to flex to give me what I want too. You find a man that'll give you everything that you want, or give you everything that you need and most of the things that you want. You need to be willing to give that man everything that he needs and most of the things that he wants, which brings us back to this Norwegian mentality where, if we're doing for ourselves in this dynamic, we grow together equally. My expectations should be met on the equal platform as your expectations, because you're going to be in a social holding pattern where you're learning another person's uh, uh, expectations. So you can't rush connection in Norway. You have to earn that. We rush connection in American culture. We were like, first date expensive, second date expensive, third date sleepovers. Typically, a lot of girls, sex on a third date. Even if the third date is once every 2 weeks, 6 weeks in, sex on a third date, right? Some of y'all first date. But if you're hanging out with folks for 5 months, y'all going places two, three times a month, getting to know one another, y'all done been homies for almost half a year before y'all started dating. You know enough flaws about this man before you go on a first date that you don't want to go on this first date. You just saved yourself some trouble. But if you can't find nothing wrong with him as a homie, when y'all start going on that first date 6 months in, you've got a better candidate. Biggest problem facing black men today is black women. That is not true. The biggest problem with black men today is wasting money. The most catastrophic devaluing that black men get comes from black women. And that is because black men do not meet the black women's expectations, because black women have become the best man that a black woman could get. And then those black women still have the hypergamy theory where she wants a man that is better than that. If you become the perfect masculine man, how can you find a man more masculine than that? So the dynamic that a black woman would have to do, you don't have to change from being the masculinity that you are. You can be that powerful, strong black woman. But when you find a man that's equally powerful and equally strong, you submit, you back down, you turn off the alpha boss lady. Women are offended by that. But a man that is on your level is capable of doing for you all of the things that you can do for yourself. Now you don't have to do that anymore because he is here. So when you, as a boss lady, taking care of the stuff on time, taking care of stuff early, preventative maintenance, emergency, backup plans, everything to that effect, you got it under control. You find a guy with the same mentality, okay, he can start doing that now. I don't have to think about that stuff. That does not mean that you have to just completely shut down. You now lead from the rear. Instead of leading from the front, you lead from the rear because he's supposed to be your sword and shield. But let me ask you a question, ladies. If the man is your sword and shield, who is wielding the sword and the shield? The woman. So you still got control, but you're just not on the front lines no more. You don't have to be at the beginning of the spotlight because that's the person taking all the shots. You know, it has to come from a dynamic where you learn to work with your partner. You got to utilize your partner's strengths and then you got to protect their weaknesses. The same way you expect a man to do the same for you. Okay. And this brings you guys closer together because when he's able to build up better because you got his back, he's got more to invest in you to build you up. So you ain't got to try so hard. If two people are going to in the same direction, it is easier than it is if we're going in separate directions because we got to backtrack. We got to backtrack. Um, so special shout out to Joseph. I can't say that black men are problematically exposed by black women. I can say that they're completely devalued by them, and I can say that that's one of the reasons why the largest quantity of black men are going after non-black women because they're looking for peace. You know, and the black women are not used to not being on top of things. And they should stay on top of their shit. They should stay on top of their shit to a degree. But at some point, they need to be, their expectations should have been met before the man started spending his money. And if black women were to run it that route, she would be happier. She would have to be less assertive. And one of the reasons why women don't want to raise a man is because you don't want to change somebody who is already set in his ways, right? No man wants to change a woman that's set in her ways, right? That's the reason why men are going to get younger women. So if you're, as a black woman, trying to find the right man, you might do better paying for the date. Because if you take him out, you can find out what kind of dude he is. How does he express his appreciation to you since he ain't spending no money? You know what I mean? And give him 6 months of showing him that you have value. Because a lot of women that say, I've got a job, I've been to Harvard, I've done this, I've done that, and you know, congratulations, but that doesn't make you a good partner. Financially, it would make you a good partner if I was looking for a certain income to offset my income so that we can make a million together. Then I would say, okay, well, she's working at such and such firm. She's making 75. Her income and my income come together. We're making enough where we could put away 50,000. If me and her stayed together for 10 years, we'd be a millionaire. Yeah, yeah, I can deal with this because if we're putting this money away, but then I have to find out if that's the kind of woman that she's willing to be. Are you going to be the kind of woman that's going to take that 50 grand we don't need and put it away and live a mediocre lifestyle until we make that million? Or are you the kind of woman that is going to spend the extra money that we don't need short whatever $5,000 or $15,000 worth of emergency fund that we leave there in case of an emergency. But again, instead of a man chasing a woman for her looks, he would have to be chasing her for her mentality. So your career choice is not nearly as important as what you do with the money after you get paid. Your education is not as important as how do you use your knowledge to benefit your relationship. And if women think about this, they'll be able to step back and say, well, shit, I have never once used my education to improve my relationship outside of telling my man that he don't tell me what to do. I went to college, I know better. But if you knew better, why you didn't do better? That that's a dynamic. Because men go to college all the time, dumb as a box of rocks. I'm just gonna put it out there, ladies. I'm on both sides of the fence now. I'm gonna put it out there. They go to college. They didn't go to college, got two, three, 4 degrees. Still ain't got a pot, neither a window. Okay, spent most of their time during frat parties. You got to think about this. So, um, your partner expects you to take uh the lead in these relationships a lot of the time for the men, but the women have never thought about what if y'all took the lead. I seen the one of the most interesting videos over the past couple days. This man was walking down the street and a woman approached him and just like she just literally tried to exchange numbers with him and everything. Actually, I seen one video where a dude was walking down the street and girl just started walking with him. She just decided that she was gonna go with him. And I was like, you know what? That's what's up. We didn't have to say no words. You like what you saw as I was passing by, and you're gonna figure out who I am because you're gonna go wherever it is I was about to go, and I should be going somewhere important. I shouldn't be heading to the near strip club. I should be heading somewhere important. So you follow me to where I got to go. By the time we get there, I should be able to get your name. We should be able to exchange numbers. We probably could spend the rest of the day together if you ain't got nothing else to do. I might change some of my plans with some of the stuff that's less important, put that off another day, and me and you can go somewhere and finish getting to know each other for the rest of the afternoon. Ask yourself, ladies, when is the last time you made the first approach? But here goes rule number four. We're going to be looking at with Norway is that paternity leave is going to be important in Norway. And this was one of the biggest shocks that I've had to see because a rule that uh, violently collides with empire building mindsets in America is that American framework, providing for family, we believe is meant for working hard as a man and being financial rocks for the rest of the family. Time off for men is a luxury. Time off for women is a given. That wage gap that women talk about a lot of the times is not just because there's some sexist thing going around that's not there. Because truth is that um, women can get promoted in the company because the equality laws, while they're doing away with the racial bias thing, they still have the gender bias thing going on. So women can get promoted up into a company because there aren't enough women in middle management. Men, not necessarily the case. But we also look at um, when y'all go to work, y'all have more days off than men. Y'all have the maternity leave if you even get paid time off for maternity leave because sometimes in America y'all get 12 weeks unpaid leave for maternity which don't help you at all. And then you you have the guys that are grinding out on double overtime, so it's not necessarily, yeah, didn't earn it, has many factors still. So it's not the same. You know what I mean? Y'all are swearing up and down that he said, is he blind? Yes, sir, I am exactly blind. Been sitting here reading for the last hour and 48 minutes, but I can't see shit. And what I mean is a lack of meritocracy. Well, yeah. The there isn't much merit to it, but when you go to Norway, they're going to be expecting a larger quantity of um, a larger quantity of maternity leave from the men. So when you go to Norway, the and the topic of family comes up with the concept of what's it called, Papa Parm. That's what they call it over there. You're going to learn that Norway has one of the most generous paternal leave systems in the world, where families get a total of 49 weeks of full paid leave, or 58 weeks at 80%. Asia's got some pretty good ones too, because the ones in Asia, they be giving both the father and the mother 12 months off, and the opportunity for at least one of them to get another 12 months off if they couldn't find a babysitter on the child's first birthday. I'm like, shit, I don't know where y'all be at, because where I come from, you might get 3 days off in a row. You better bring your ass back to work as soon as they let you out the hospital. You still got the umbilical cord thrown over your shoulder, and you still got to work a double shift because they was short staffed while you was giving birth. Now, uh, the crucial part here is there's a significant portion that is reserved for each parent. So there is a 15-week non-transportable quota for the father, which means that dad gets 15 weeks off from work. The uh, Frederick vote, or father's quota, and a similar one for the mother. If the father doesn't take his 15 weeks, the family simply loses them. So dad needs to take his 15 weeks because they're going to give it to you. And his for when you think about this, 15 weeks out of the office, paid leave. How could anyone afford that career wise? Well, you're going to quickly learn that this question completely misses the point. The Papa Perm is not just a benefit, it is a profound cultural expectation. A man who doesn't take his full paternity leave isn't seen as a dedicated employee, he's seen as a poor partner and an uneagered father, meaning you don't really want to be a family driven man if you're not taking your 15 weeks off from work to be at home. So, commitment to family would be seriously questioned by a partner and the partner's colleagues and everyone in the society if he's not taking his 15 weeks off, talking about some I gotta go to work because it's paid leave. It's paid leave. Let a motherfucker tell me, son, you got 15 weeks off from work because your baby mama pregnant. Oh, bet. Let me go ahead and Nick Cannon this situation and get like five of them. I'm off all year. Shit. uh, it makes a question, if you can't keep your own family attention or attentive care, then how can you do your job attentively? That makes sense. Well, if you don't give a damn about your family, how do you give a damn about? Because aren't we a work family, right? So if you're not prioritizing, this is another thing. Like I know that they got some women these days that really don't pay attention to men that take care of their parents, and this is a weird or strange dynamic because they just feel like this man's got too much of a financial burden because he's taking care of his parents. But the way a man treats his mother and his sister is likely the way he's going to treat you. Um, the way a man is dedicated to his parents is the way that he's likely going to be dedicated in a relationship with you and his kids. So if you see a man who is distant to his family, distant with his mother and father, distant with his sisters and brothers, he is likely to be, even at the very least, emotionally distant in a relationship with you and kids that he has with you. So you can tell what you're getting into based on how he interacts with the people in his family. Now, that does not mean that they got to have a perfect family. There's going to be some bad blood there. People are going to have some feuds and stuff to that effect. But the way that he will, we not talk about mama's boys who will like slaughter the world to make mama happy. We're not talking about Norman Bates kind of situation. We're talking about like a healthy ability to show priority to family as a single person, where in that relationship, you know that you guys are going to factor in the needs of the elders, which also gives you a little bit of room because if you've got family that you're looking after as well, because a lot of us, once we start getting 30, 40, 50 years old, we start becoming the caregivers of our fathers and our grandfathers and grandmothers and everything to that effect. Is that sometimes you'll know your coworkers and spend more time with your coworkers than you spend with your family. That is true, and that's where affairs come from. But if you spend that much time at the job that you know more about your coworker than you know about your wife, then you know that you fucking up. You take your ass home. So taking that time to be a primary caregiver is a fundamental part of being a man in modern Norway. So it's the ultimate expression of the egalitarian ideals, hardwired directly into the family unit. So anybody's fantasy of being a hard charging executive while being a parent handling the home front wasn't just an old fashioned model there in Norway, it was culturally unacceptable. So the system and any potential partners in that system would demand that the man be just as hands on at home as in the boardroom. Now, if we look at this dynamic in the United States, because one of the biggest arguments from feminism is that the women don't want to be bound to the house, they want to chase their careers. If you share the responsibility where instead of only 12% of men getting their children in a separation court, divorce court, if 100% of the men got their children, the women would be able to chase their careers. If the men want to be fathers, if you're not getting an abortion because the guy wanted to be the dad, if you gave the kid to the dad and let him figure it out, to be honest, you would have more time to chase your career. Women have to choose that second shift to choose between being a mother and being an executive because women prioritize by their own choice to be the one that makes sure that the kid has what they need. But y'all need to step back and start doing the way the women used to do it back in the 60s. This is your child, bring your ass home and parent your child. Because I gotta go to work. Your child got a recital, take your child to the recital. I'm going to work late. And, at the end of the day, let these dads step up and be dads, you know, because at the end of the day, women that deny a man his ability to be a father because she doesn't want to do that second shift take away any negotiation in the relationship that could be about how this would happen. And truth be told, within the first 5 days, you should find out if you're dating a guy that wants to be a father. And if he is, then you need to find out how he's going to handle that. Is he going to spend more time with the kid or does he expect you to do it? It's the same kind of discussion that you have with your children when your children say they want a dog. Well, who the fuck's raising this dog? Because I'm not doing it. If I get this dog and this dog is pooping all over the house, you and the dog is going outside. You know what I mean? Y'all gonna be walking up the street like Snoopy and them with a stick and a bag. Look, and as a parent, I see myself doing exactly that. Getting one of them long Kendo sticks and getting one of them big old satchels and being able to put all the stuff on the stick in the satchel and let that be a TikTok video. This child said some stuff and he on his own, he gonna put that and walk on out of his house and take that little dog with you. Nah, I'm playing. He said, and most of us that are men are already familiar with having no validation whatsoever for anything we do. We still do it because it's part of who we are and preservation. And that's true. But see, the thing, the other issue that we have as men is that because instead of us chasing a woman based on her values, we chase a woman based on her body. We based on the way that she projects that body because they present to us a sexual appearance. We find ourselves attractive to that sexual appearance. We pay for that sexual appearance until we get to keep that sexual appearance, but we never analyze the attitude. Sometimes we dismiss the attitude because of the sex. And then when we get tired of the attitude or the sex is no longer there, which was the only thing that had us putting in all of this effort, then the attitude just overwhelms us and the lack of validation we had from the very beginning. They didn't stop validating us halfway through the relationship. They didn't stop validating us after the marriage. They didn't stop validating us when they moved in the house. They never started validating us, but we kept paying for them. They never started validating us, but we convinced them to move in. They never started validating us, but we proposed to them because they kept cussing us out about the marriage until we did it. Then we pay for the wedding because they cuss us out about the wedding until we do it. And then after the wedding, then they cuss us out about something else and we stuck with it. If you put your wallet away and see how much she values you as a person, then you try to maintain that as you integrate money into that relationship. You will find that it doesn't matter how much or how little you spend, she's always going to be there for you. And she's there for you, not your stuff. Okay? Because your stuff is a given. If y'all divorce, she's going to take half of it. And if you die, she take all of it. So your stuff should not be a dynamic on the table. The same way sex should not be a dynamic on the table. As long as y'all together, y'all should be knocking boots. So money for sex should be two criteria that is taken completely out of the dynamic of social interaction as adults. Because what you need from her as a man has nothing to do with what's in the bedroom, and what she needs from you as a woman has nothing to do with your wallet, right? Once we change that dynamic, then we're going to start getting into something better. Now, the family is going to be a term, and you guys are going to be star players in this. So after we've gone through a lot of weeks of this, and this is a really big reality check. The full picture is going to emerge that any search for the traditional partner from the what we believe a traditional partner should be from a Western American culture is based on a flawed premise. So we look for someone to play a supporting role, but Norwegian society only casts co-leads. So a partner here isn't someone who sacrifices their ambitions for yours. They expect you to integrate your ambitions with their ambitions and with the shared project of your family on top of that. So the Norwegian family unit is a team where both partners are star players expected to score goals and play defense together, which we don't do in America, and we need to figure that shit out. He said, "Yeah, it takes it took a divorce to find that balance." Isn't that something else? Isn't that something? And you find that after your first divorce, you realize everything you did wrong in the first marriage. That make my own financial decisions, and she follows that now. But it didn't happen before that. No alimony, no court, no child support mandated. But it took it took getting the divorce because before the divorce, you can agree that your financial decisions were not being followed until you put your foot down and said, "Fuck this shit, I'm out." Then what you wanted started being respected. So had y'all started as friends first, started getting to know each other a little bit better, then slowly dated into the situation, put 10, 15 years into the situation, ended up getting married. Y'all have been around one another for 20 years, been married for five. Y'all still gonna be together for a long period of time. It's just that y'all gonna be together in a different dynamic now because now y'all have a higher level of respect for one another because the marriage does y'all not together because y'all have to be. Y'all are together because y'all choose to be, which is different. Because the first time, following that monogamy role, You dated for a period of time. You had the pressure of getting into the marriage. You got into the marriage. You did the marriage thing. Then and y'all weren't happy because you were forced to follow a timeline of performance. Now y'all just around one another just to be around one another. But if y'all would have been around one another from the beginning just to be around one another, it would have been a whole lot different. Probably end up getting married a second time. Give it 5 years. Remarried. So this is going to extend to every part of domestic life, especially over in Norway. And the expectations of shared household labors is absolute as well. And if modern day egalitarian women thought about this mentality in the United States, you wouldn't be complaining about men looking for family oriented women, because if you were a family oriented woman, you would be able to go and do your Fortune 500 job and then come back and do the dishes after I did the cooking, or do the cooking after I did the dishes, or we can cook together and one of us can put the dishes in the dishwasher and the other one can put the dishes on the shelf. um, While some studies show Norwegian women still do slightly larger shares of housework, the cultural idea is somewhat of a perfect balance. A man is expected to cook, clean, and do laundry and handle the mental load of scheduling just like women. So, uh, contributions isn't uh, her helping her partner, it is him helping her while she's helping him, and it's fulfilling a basic responsibility as reasonably equals, right? Which is what the egalitarian society is supposed to be in America, not just the coin term. So this realization is going to be the final nail in the coffin of what we define as a love plan. So the American definition of a provider is almost entirely financial. In Norway, it's holistic. It's about providing time, presence, and equal effort. So you provide by picking up the kids, taking your full paternity leave, supporting your partner, supporting your partner's career with the same energy that you expect from them to support your career. So your wife probably would climb up the ladder and hammer and nail some roofs right along with you, support the career, right? You go to a different country looking for a partner, you experience this type of scenario, and you realize this makes life easier. That way, you guys can focus more on your money. You discover that a Norwegian partner would challenge you to be better, not devalue you and degrade you because they feel like you're not enough after they stop looking at your money. Because that's going to be another issue that men experience from all women, but we experience it more from the black women than we experience from other women. Is that once she's no longer starstruck by the quantity of money that he's spending, she starts realizing that he ain't shit because all he got is the money that he wasted on her. And no drive, no ambition. The car that she fell in love with hopefully isn't a rental, but that's all he got going for him. And she's disappointed. And I don't blame her. I'd be disappointed too. But you was flabbergasted by the lavish entertainment and you failed to pay attention to the expectations thereafter. Now, changing your expectations would put you in a position to see his drive and see his ambition and see what he's about before he opens his wallet. And that would give you the capability to make sure that you're deciding on the correct man. He said, no, she didn't do any physical labor to help me. I said, but she should now. She should get up on that damn ladder. especially, especially since you just got the cast off. You should be able to say, hey, baby, hey, hey, my leg hurt. We still got to finish unit 4. She said, all right, hun, and put on a tool belt and climb up there like here's the Jeffersons and get up there like Florida Evans and get up. I got you. Starting hammering nails. Look, oh, he said she don't drive neither. Nah, that's all right. She could at least drive you to work. My driving foot hurt. Yo, I had a girl way back in the day. This was like 30 years ago. And she was like my bestest of bestest friends. I had some road dogs back in the day. It was a whole different breed of folks. She used to work on my car herself, change the all CV axles, transmission repair, all kinds. I'm saying like she used to work on my car. And I had gotten into a motorcycle accident, broke my foot and my hand. So that's what I tell her. I know how you feel with your broke foot. But I broke my foot clean off, right? So uh I taught her how to drive a stick, and I had a stick. So she learned how to drive a stick. So now she's driving a stick. When my driving foot hurt, she would take the wheel and she would drive the car, and we would go places. And that she was like the only person outside of my little brother who would drive my car. Nobody else. And he only drove my car when we went places together in my car, because usually after I taught him how to drive, I put him in his truck and he would drive his truck places and I would drive my car. We would be going to the same place in two separate vehicles. But she would be like the only person that would drive my vehicle. Otherwise, you knew where I was. It was like a GPS signal, because if you see my car outside, I drive my own car. So if the car is there, I'm there, right? But uh he said too many medical ailments. That's what they make Teslas for. All she got to do is be sitting in the front seat. The car drive itself. They got an autopilot on it now. But yeah, she used to take me. She used to drive me places. Stuff like these days, I am deliberately buying manual shift cars, and on I want to say maybe the first, second, third date, I want to see if she know how to drive a manual shift car. Because if she don't know how to drive a manual shift car, we gonna have to talk. Because a lot of women swear to God they know how to drive, and I'm not knocking you. All I'm saying is that holding the steering wheel is not driving. That is keeping the car from going off a cliff. Knowing how to shift the gears, listen to the transmission, change the oil, all this other stuff, that is somehow a little bit more in depth than just holding the steering wheel and pushing the gas pedal. You know what I mean? So you know how to handle a standard shift car, then you know how to drive. Because what we heard when we was growing up is that if you know how to drive, you know how to drive anything. The stick shift. If it's got a motor on it, you can turn it on, whether it's a push button or push a key. If it's got a motor in it, you can turn it on. You can drive it. That's knowing how to drive. So a big rig, something like that, you can get in there and make it move. Then you know how to drive. But if you can only hold the steering wheel of an automatic, you know how to hold the wheel, you know how to hold the car on the road, but you don't know how to drive. Okay, you understand that? So we just want to go there. He said epilepsy, two shoulders. Yeah, I remember you told me about all of that, but none of that got nothing to do with if she sat in the driver's seat of a Tesla and let the Tesla drive both of y'all. She wouldn't need to do nothing but sit in the car, and that would help you with organizing the day. Somehow denied SSDI 3 times. Nah, she could get denied 6 times in America, especially after Donald Trump changed that law. If she didn't get approved before the Republicans got put into office, she gonna have to get an attorney and all this other stuff, and it might take 2, 3 years. She'll get back pay. She'll get it eventually. Is it very true? I learned to drive at 5 from grandpa and on a 1 ton 55 work truck. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Not 1955 Chevy 1 ton. That's what I'm talking about. Special shout out to Crash Out. I can't believe I'm talking with Leon Phelps. Okay. Well, you're not talking to Leon Phelps, but I appreciate the compliment. He almost looks like me. I look better than him, but I appreciate the compliment. Thank you very much. It's good to be a celebrity. But when you think about this, the entire understanding of relationships is turned upside down. So the question for a traditional partner, as you would define it, is completely busted. And honestly, it is a huge, humble reality check. But before we get into how you plan to get rich quick, you also have to speculate the implosion behind Norwegian rules. Which of the rules shock you the most? Either the bill splitting, the slow burn dating, or mandatory paternity leave. You guys got to let me know about that uh, in the comment section as we keep going. And if you find the journey that we have of this Norwegian psyche as fascinating as I have as an investor, you guys got to do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, because it does help us get seen by a lot more people. Uh, but if you love the life plan that we didn't think was going to go the way it went, that was fine. But being an investor first, you still have capital, you have risk appetite. And as an American, you have that hustle mentality, which I'm sure you're going to learn would not give you the kind of edge that you wanted to have in Norway. He said, the mandatory paternity leave, I did not know. Mandatory paternity leave. Yes. In Norway, they have mandatory 15-week paternity leave. In the United States, you just don't get paid to go to work. I think I'll start off with buying more silver. Well, silver is cheaper than gold. I would buy more silver than I would buy gold because when silver does get revalued, because silver and gold are on the same demand, and you understand that high demand has um, high profits or high costs. If gold and silver have the same demand, but silver is 10% of the price of gold, eventually, not happening this year, eventually, gold and silver are going to be at the same price. And when that happens, anybody that owns silver is going to be getting 1,000 times a boost. Is that I've got a pound of silver somewhere. I just don't know where it is. Well, you better find it before the person who read that text go find it. It's in one of the sheds. Well, if you got a block, you got a brick, you got like a brick of silver somewhere. Whew, that's heavy. You need to get them in like little doubloons. You got to get them in like so you could put it in a Corona bag, and that's actually fantastic because while that is the most expensive Halloween costume ever, you could be Jack Sparrow because you could have a Corona bag full of pure silver coins. But yeah, back when my grandpa was around, we were using silver in the lid to what is that? Stiffen it. Oh, I didn't know that. It was cheap. Yeah, it was cheap back in the day. It's getting expensive nowadays. So we're ready to pivot our full attention into making money because today we were talking about Norway. There's two ways that we were going to be addressing Norway: the way of life with the standard of living there versus the ability to make money. The first half of the show, we covered the ability to make money. Oh, lead. I was sitting over here wondering, like, y'all put silver in the lid? Oh, you put silver in the lead to stiffen it up. Okay. Yes. And that's what we do with some of our currency, which is why a lot of the metals that we have are not pure gold. They have gold remnants in it. And since the gold is primarily on the outside, when erosion occurs, you thinking that you got 18 karat gold and you got some 18 karat gold in there, but a lot of it, because gold is malleable, gold will bend. Um, it's not going to hold a shape as well if you don't have other metals in there. Smelting it down led to make casting bullets. Yeah, but I'm going to be honest with you. Here in 2025, we don't have as many vampires as we used to back in the day because back in the 60s there was a bunch of them. So steel bullets, like those silver bullets, Well, no, it was werewolves. That's what we were hunting back in the day. Werewolves. So the silver bullets, that's the best way to go. Nowadays, you can deal with a regular like hollow point. You don't have to you don't have to do the silver bullets anymore. I mean, technically, since a lot of the bullets are like uh, a dollar a bullet, if you can uh phase it down to something a little less than and get you like less than a dollar a bullet off of silver bullets, you might be able to do a little bit. But the bullets cost like what 45 45 or $50 an ounce. There's no reason why you need to be, but you're not making silver bullets anymore because what it isn't like an ounce of silver, like the or half an ounce of silver, the size of that means your bullets are like $20 a bullet. I'm not trying to do that. Like that person really had to die if I'm gonna use $20 a bullet to take them out. Like I'm gonna catch them under the moonlight, take them out fishing like the Godfather. Because I don't know, you seen the YouTube short lately? We got uh lots of cryptides now. We got a lot of stuff going on YouTube right now. We got YouTube is got more information on it than TikTok. TikTok got a lot of TikTok dances, but TikTok's got a lot. There, we've got an abundance of fake news on social media, and YouTube has become a huge victim of artificial videos. Now that they have allowed for AI videos to come out, they have a lot of artificial videos, and you cannot always tell if the video that you're watching is real. And a lot of times, if it looks CGI, I'm gonna research it. If it look like bad camera angles, it's probably real. So remember when we used to watch TV and the difference between like Murder She Wrote versus um that 70s show or Three's Company where the lighting was different. Like Murder She Wrote felt real because they had shitty lighting. You could almost never see nothing. But that 70s show, it's like even in the dark, it was a well lit room. Like you could see everything that's going on. You could see the roaches crawling up the walls on on the Jeffersons. Well lit. Like no wonder their light bill was so damn high. They had like fog lights in their house. It was crazy. Um, he asked when you mix lead, silver, and tin as a wad cutter rips limbs off. But what you trying to cut off rims? Yeah, I think um if you got the ones with the exploding tips, even though you can't really use those like out in the street since they're outlawed. If you had those exploding bullets, they still sell them. You can go buy them. You just can't really get caught with them with the police. But if you got some and you at the house and you just, you know what I mean? Like blow somebody hole in their chest or something like that. It's still cheaper than a silver bullet. It's a silver bullet. Yeah, unless they really small lead balls where they're like a gram or like 7 to 10 grams, where like a 1 pound can make like a 100,000 balls, then it might be worth it. But if you making them like Blade Trinity silver bullets, is highly effective and soft armor too. He ain't just trying to take out. See, when you say soft armor, you're not just trying to take out werewolves. You trying to take out werewolves in ice uniforms. That's what you're trying to. So now we're gonna hunt for these hidden gems and unorthodox deals that are sleeping comfortably in Norway. Either technically that's just a reaction between salt rock and mercury. I understand that, but it's still cheaper than a solid silver bullet. But I mean, if you're gonna put less silver on your silver bullet, put some salt rock and some mercury on the tip, and then let it booyah. then I mean, yeah, as long as it's less than 87 cents an ounce. I mean, yeah, or 87 cents a bullet. As long as it's less than 87 cents a bullet, you can make it do what it do. But when you start making bullets at home that cost $2.75 a bullet, you're spending too much money on bullets. That's what I'm saying. I'm Look, when we run out of sellable bullets, or when you got to start making bullets at the house because the feds is looking for you at the gun store, then you can make bullets at the house. But you ain't got no felonies. We should just go to the nearest ammunition and go and buy as much as we can carry and save that solid silver brick for when US dollars get burned to the ground. Old school WW2 drill sergeant. Look, hey, my dad came from 76, so I can tell you, uh, I'm still going to the gun store. Oh Lord. No, actually nowadays I don't even have to go to the gun store. Nowadays, all I have to do is order the stuff and get it shipped. And as long as you're living in a state that allows for ammunition to be sent in the mail, I can get it mailed to my house. UPS, FedEx, get a box with no information on it that just uh sends me a large quantity of bullets in the mail, and I'm gonna be good about it because it's gonna come to the house in somebody else's name. They ain't mailing it to me. Either we use a few grams of silver in the lead when casting. So I have a pound ingot from when I was a kid. Oh no, I understand that. I understand that. But I was sitting over here thinking about a solid silver bullet, and then I wasn't even thinking about no small silver bullet neither. I was thinking about one of them long ass spear style bullets, like the one Triple H got shot with. One of them big old monster bullets that look like it's shaped like a spike being shot out of a crossbow. One of them gigantic, long, real big. I don't even know how you carry these on your hip kind of bullets. Not the little baby ones, the big bullets. That's what I was thinking when you said that. I was like, oh hell no, that's a big ass silver bullet. That's the first thing I thought about was driving a stake through a werewolf. I was just like, oh Jesus, they really out there getting it. I don't know what y'all hunting, but it ain't gonna survive. Now, let's get into some of these financial plans because these financial plans in Norway are going to collide with cultural views about money, work, and wealth in ways that most of us in America would not think about. So, number six, rule number six in Norway: if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably illegal. In America, if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably a scam. But if it's not a scam, there's high profits involved. We don't give a shit if it's illegal. So, first, real taste of the Norwegian investment landscape comes from hot tips, right? In acquisition, uh, lowered the voice. He said number 16 sledge. That's a pretty heavy. That's the same sledgehammer that Triple H used in the Royal Rumble. But yeah, vampires are werewolves. Well, okay, so it was used on vampires, but it was silver for werewolves. So there was a dynamic there because they had those gigantic, long, real silver because they were vampires. Everybody in the Blade movie were vampires, but that long silver spike, it was real big. It was like bigger than a knife. That long silver, yeah, that's what I was thinking about when you said silver bullet. I was like, damn, those things are big. Then I thought about Benjamin Button, and then I remembered the little small balls from like World War II kind of thing. And I was like, oh, like a little nugget, like a pellet. so a few grams. So back to the acquaintance giving you an acquisition about a private deal, off market forestry projects with guaranteed returns that would double anything in the public market, right? A forestry project is a good thing to get into in any country around the world. In the US, a conversation like that is the start of an exciting chase. It's a hot lead or a warm lead at the very least, and you start digging into it, and you'll be able to find some decent prospects and potentially make yourself a good deal. Unfortunately, you try something like that in Norway, there are no prospects. Audited financials, none. Regulatory frameworks, obsolete. You get a dismissive wave. Oh, it's a private arrangement. The investor uh, instincts that you have in that are screaming, don't get into it. And you'll take the deal's framework to a local financial advisor who looks at the notes, listens for 2 minutes, and sighs at the idea where they are going to explain to you that this wasn't an under the table or under the radar opportunity, that it was an unregulated scheme. It's something that is not supported by the government. So the promise of guaranteed high returns is the biggest red flags in Norwegian financial world because their culture is built on transparency and trust. So anything operating in the shadows is viewed with extreme suspicion, not just by the investors, but by the authorities. So the American ethos of high risk, high reward is seen here as reckless gambling, which is a little bit different. He said, yeah, I can grip one by the handle at the very end and then touch my nose with the hammerhead. Nah, I'm not touching my nose with the hammerhead. That's how you knock yourself out. My record is a 22-pound one at Home Depot that is made by Fiskars. Well, I would probably get one, uh, but I would not touch my nose with it because I mean I seen what Triple H used to do with that bad boy, and like blah, and hit him in the gut and everything like that. Uh, I'm not trying to touch my nose with a sledgehammer. If I could pick it up off the ground and get it over my shoulder, because the force of getting it off the ground, I would hit myself in the face and break my face. 3 foot handle. Yeah, that's a regular sledgehammer without breaking my nose or smashing my teeth with the hammer. I'm not doing that. It would have to stay on the ground. I'd have to put my foot on the handle, pick it up with both hands, and kind of beat it with my nose. But just to come up and mm. So legality versus scams. Yeah, in Norway, that's going to be the thing. Uh, because financial transparency is so big in Norway, anything that's under the radar, anything that's behind the scenes, anything that people don't know nothing about is probably a scam. Uh, hustle culture in Norway is a red flag, not a virtue. So the investment approach that you have in America, if you take that to Norway, uh, that's only half of the strategy because the other half is your work ethic. If you come from the American school of rise and grind, where you work long hours, you're always on, and you answer emails at 10 p.m. as a badge of honor, you go to Norway to apply this formula, assuming it's going to set you apart. Doesn't set you apart at all, or it actually would set you apart, but just not in a good way because you're sending late night emails and get no reply until 9:05 a.m. the next day, and they'll suggest a 7:30 a.m. breakfast meeting and get a look of genuine bewilderment because they're not going to meet you at 7:30 in the morning. You learn quickly that in Norway, work has very clear boundaries. Uh, A workday typically ends at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it literally stops working at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it literally would start working at 9 o'clock in the morning. So people go home, they go hiking. An office that is empty at 4:30 in the afternoon isn't a sign of a lazy workforce. It is a sign of an efficient one. So your hustle mentality isn't impressive in Norway. It would be seen as poor time management, a sign that you couldn't get your work done in 8 hours. In a culture with flat hierarchies, it could even be interpreted as a selfish attempt to get ahead at the expense of the team, a violation of Janto, Jantovian. So the famous Norwegian work-life balance isn't just a nice perk, it's a fiercely protected core value. So taking a full summer vacation is practically mandatory. Your American superpower of willingness to sacrifice your life for work is not going to fly in Norway. It's a critical flaw. Almost like the same dynamic of ignoring women versus instantly replying. I'm going to be honest with you. There are a lot of women that will send you a text message just to see if you will reply because they want to know if you are too busy to talk to them. And if you are too busy to talk to them, they're going to assume that you're doing something inappropriate instead of making money because you're too busy to talk to them. Typically, because early on in your relationship, you were so bewildered by them that you would always talk to them even when you was at work. Now that your work ethic is starting to suffer, you have to prioritize your job. Now you're not talking to them at work anymore. And now they're getting offended, like, oh, you're talking to another female because you don't got time to talk to her. If you have that balance where when I'm not with you, if your internal organs are not externally out of your body, I will get back to you when I can. If you don't set that dynamic, she will call you while you're driving and expect you to answer the phone. She will call you while you're in a business meeting and expect you to answer the phone. How can you be financially successful if you're walking away from $1 million deal because your girlfriend called? They're not gonna. If you don't have your house in order, how am I supposed to do business with you? So if she knew that you left to come and close this $1 million deal, then she shouldn't talk to you until you call her back and tell her that you closed the deal. If she's interrupting your business meeting, then she is not interested in your success. I don't even check the messages. If you call me, you going straight to voicemail until I get ready to talk to you. And if you send me a text message, I am not even going to read it until I get to where I need to go and do what I got to do. I know you messaged me. That you will be left unread until I get there. Let them see unread for a long duration. You're going to get that unread until I get back to the house. I'm going to be that asshole that I'm going to walk through the door and then my girl going to come up and talk to me. And I'll be like, oh, hold on a second, honey. I got some messages. And I'm going to be reading everything she said. And then I'm going to respond to them while I'm right there in front of her. And she gonna be like, "Oh, why you didn't do that while you was out? Because I was fucking busy. What you mean?" I told you where I was going. I'm not the one to have a GPS on my phone where you could track where I went and what I was doing. I'm not the one that you're gonna be able to follow me different places and shit. No, no. If you are capable of going and I offer you an invitation, you come. But if not, you stay gone. You stay at the house, you stay doing what you got to do. I'm going to do what I got to do. And then when I get back to the house, I tell you about my day. You'll know where I went. If you gave a shit about your man, instead of stalking him on the GPS tracker, why don't you let your man tell you how his day was? He'll tell you everywhere he went, everything he did, and everything he did with the people that he did it with, who he did it with. Because that's how men live. They'll give you a whole itinerary if you just ask, how was your day? But see, the first time he tell you what's going on in his life, and you start fussing at him about it, he'll stop telling you what's going on in his life. And then when you ask him how was his day, he gonna tell you it was fine and leave it at that. But as long as you're getting full transparency with no resentment, no judgment, no retaliation, he'll come home and tell you everything he did that day. Everybody he engaged. Some girl can come up and try to kiss him on the cheek, and he'd be like, "Yeah, man, and then she left his makeup on my collar." And you, I got some scotch. I get that right out. See what I'm saying? And he'll come back and he'll snitch on himself because he's so used to telling you everything that he won't do nothing that he can't tell his girl because men still have conscience, men still have guilt, and a man is not going to do something that he doesn't feel comfortable with telling his girl if he tells his girl everything. But if he don't tell her nothing because she's very conflictual, there's not much that he's not capable of doing because he don't tell her nothing no way. He said 30 feet up in the air on a lift. Bro, I could be sitting on a picnic bench, petting my dog, feeding the pigeons, and I will get to that damn text message later. I would look. Uh-uh. I said I was busy. If I'm busy getting peace, I'm still busy. When I am not busy, I'm with her. But when I am not with her, I am busy. So if it is not an emergency, I am busy. And it's got to be the kind of emergency where you're actively dying right now. Because I mean, if it can wait till tomorrow, it can wait till I get home. Okay. And people gonna say, "Oh, that's selfish." Da, da, da. What about the family life? But why do I got to kill myself in a car crash to rush back to the house to get you to the hospital? Because you got the flu, not because your internal organs are outside of your body. Because you got a cold. You could have simply sent me a text message to pick up some NyQuil on the way back. It would have flashed across my screen. NyQuil. Got to stop by the store and got some NyQuil. Or, or you could be a really good partner and use that Walmart.com app and just order some damn NyQuil to be delivered to the house and some groceries to go along with it. That way, I don't got to carry them to the house. Let somebody else do it. You ain't even got to leave a tip. Then the groceries on the doorstep. When I get back to the house, I should be able to carry them in. Just saying. Indifference breeds paranoia. No, past traumas breed paranoia. And deceptive behavior builds paranoia because people who have reasonable trust between one another, because trust is given, it's not earned. It's maintained through positive behavior, but it's given, not earned. So you can only trust me to do in our relationship what you are willing to do yourself in the exact same situation. So if you are cheating, you're going to be paranoid about me cheating. If you are behaving inappropriately with the opposite sex, then you're going to figure I'm going to do that. If all you give a shit about is me, then you're going to assume that all I give a shit about is you. But if you eyeballing other people, thinking in your mind how if you had the opportunity, you would turn that person inside out, you're going to assume that I'm doing the same thing. And then you're going to come and see if that's true. But if you was well behaved, loyal, dedicated, then you would expect me to be the same. And if you expect me to be the same with no reason to see otherwise, there isn't a reason for you to be paranoid unless you come from a previous relationship where you discovered the deception, where you come from a previous relationship where you experienced the trauma of the walking in on the affair or some other stuff like that, but then you're projecting your past onto me where I have not done anything to give you that train of thought. So women seek validation and assurance. Yes, but that goes back to what we said a couple of hours ago on the show, with that if you're going to, special shout out Scat Pack, Merry Christmas to you as well. um, if you're going to validate, instead of doing grand gestures, very, I can't say very often because we really only do like 3 or 4 times a year that we do validations and grand gestures. Instead of doing grand, really expensive gestures once every 3 to 6 months, you could do little $1 gestures or less, um, throughout the week, throughout the day, throughout the year. Always doing things. You could set, like I said before, you could do sticky notes all over the place. You can do cue cards all over the place. You can hide little messages in different areas where when they find it, that's when they get the, and you could literally start on Monday and just put stuff all over the place. You got a message in the couch, you've got a message under the pillow, you've got a message in their purse, you got a message in their credit cards, you got you could do stuff like mail a letter to yourself, to your spouse, like literally take it, you could take it to the mail in a different district. That way, it definitely will take 3 or 4 days for it to get back to your house. And then it will come to your house. She will get the mail, and then she'll get the letter then, which is what you thought about her 4 days ago. And that kind of stuff is the kind of stuff where it's like $1.65 plus a sheet of paper, and you can get her that assurance and that validation where she can remember that she's the most important person that you got in your life besides your dog and your child. But I mean, if the only time that you validate her is in February and then May for Mother's Day and then her birthday and then Christmas, that's 4 times out of the year, out of 12 months. The other 8 months, she's wondering if you give a shit. See what I'm saying? Is a yes, but it begins with indifference of your partner, less communication, less empathy, and finally paranoia of cheating. Yes. Well, if you have high levels of communication in the beginning, then you just get tired of the arguing and then you're going to communicate less. That's going to be what causes the man to communicate less. So the product of her bitching is he talks to her less. The product of her bitching is that he cares less empathy about the emotional guilt trips that she puts him through. Then she's going to develop paranoia of cheating because a man's self-preservation is that he's not going to allow himself to be stressed out by his woman. He's not going to leave his woman, but he ain't going to talk to her until he's ready to put up with her bullshit. Now, if she's a positive woman that is not bringing him conflict, that is a problem solver of his chaos, that maintains his peace, he's going to spend more time with her and give her more attention and communicate with her more, tell her more about the problems that he's got going on because she's going to help him fix those problems. And then she's not going to have a scenario where there's less communication, less empathy, and she won't develop that area of paranoia because she's being supportive in her relationship. Men don't shut themselves off from women that they want to be with. Men shut themselves off from women that they are tired of being around because of how they're being treated by her. So if she was positive in a relationship, her man could come and talk to her to a degree. But again, if a man got to go to work, he got to make that money. He's going to go to work and make that money. If he's in a relationship, an egalitarian relationship, where you're not overstating your financial standard, then he don't have to work so hard if she's guaranteedly going to bring in half. But in American culture, men are expected to be $100,000 a year man that has to pay for 100% of the lifestyle. She's going to supposedly make close to the same amount of money as him, probably 75, maybe 100, but she don't have to pay for nothing. So between the two of them making $200,000, he's spending $80,000 on a lifestyle, and she's spending the rest of the money that she's got on herself. Inherently, that's the kind of culture we have in the United States. If you're 40, $50,000 and she's 50, $60,000 and you're paying for the $50,000 a year lifestyle, you're putting 100% of your money on the core lifestyle. And then she pays, if she pays for the entertainment, she either pays for her entertainment or y'all's entertainment when you're not at work, but she pays for herself. We're not in a dynamic in Western culture where women take care of their men because that's not masculinity. So with this Norwegian egalitarian model, If both of y'all are making 60, 70 grand, y'all both putting up 30, and y'all both should have 30 something left. And if y'all put that together, that's 60 something. And like I told y'all before, if y'all putting away 40,000 or more every year into 15% or more interest investment opportunity, you should have between a half million and three-quarters of $1 million inside of 10 years. So you should be a millionaire inside of a multimillionaire inside of 20 years. So in Norway, quick investment jackpot ideas tend to fade out of your business model because you're going to be hit by a more brutal financial reality because there's a sheer staggering cost of just existing in Norway. So the plan to live lean and deploy capital uh, in this country itself seemed to drain everything that you've got out of your budget. So some sources say the overall cost of living is less expensive in Norway than in the United States, but the daily sticker shock is still very real because your first trip to the grocery store is going to feel like a prank. A simple loaf of bread, a gallon of milk, cheese, bottle of wine, every item felt like a luxury. And you would see the estimated monthly cost for a single person to be around 30,674 krones, which is about 2,800 US dollars. Just the basic needs. And that's after the famously high Norwegian taxes. Then there's rent. So this wasn't rent. That was like getting basic needs at the store. In Oslo, finding a simple one bedroom apartment for under 15,000 krones a month, which is about $1,400, is an extreme challenge. That's a significant amount gone before you've even bought a slice of expensive bread. So that $2,800 for groceries, $1,400 for rent, that's about $4,200. You see why they got an egalitarian lifestyle over there because that's two incomes. Of course, locals have high average salaries to offset this, but for an investor whose goal was to maximize high capital growth, this environment is going to be terrifying. The burn rate is astronomical. The financial friction is immense, and it's going to be making goals of getting rich feel more distant with every trip to the supermarket. So your rule number nine is going to be to safe investments that are almost extremely boring. So if you want to hunt for high yield deals, you're not going to find those in Norway because what you're actually going to find as options is the typical Norwegian investment portfolio. The answer is going to be very sobering because the entire system is geared towards slow, steady, and frankly boring growth. So the primary investment vehicles are going to be bank managed funds, board market ETFs, bonds, and real estate. But even real estate is a tamer beast in Norway because heavily regulated and going to be seen more as a long term store of value than a way to get rich quick. So to invest directly, an investor needs a national identity number or D number, a Norwegian bank account, and a deep understanding of local international tax laws. After all that work, you get access to a market that prioritizes stability over explosive growth. So the consumer price index hovering around 138.9 with an annual inflation rate of about 3% as of late 2025 confirms this focus on stability. That's some fucked up numbers, but it's a safe harbor. not a rocket ship the way we have to deal with in America. So for an investor using who is used to volatility in the United States market, the Norwegian landscape felt like switching from speedboats racing to watching paint dry. Unfortunately, sometimes the culture shock isn't what you think it is. Your best investments is in the system itself. So if you spend months feeling frustrated trying to find a better way to get rich quick, you're going to find that you fundamentally misread the entire country, coming from a shark in a uh, fjord, but feeling like a fish out of water in this new culture. But you'll slowly understand and begin to realize that you came to Norway to extract value. So you're going to learn that in Norway, you create value and you receive it by integrating and participating. So the real return on investment isn't a brokerage account, it's in the quality of life that the system provides. So high taxes that you saw as a burden for paying pristine public infrastructure, subsidized world-class healthcare, and free education through the university levels, the high cost of living is linked to high wages and strong labor protection that ensures a decent standard of living for almost everyone. Now, the boring economy creates a level of stability and safety that is almost unimaginable in more volatile countries. Now, the best investment wasn't a secret forestry deal, even though forestry deals are fantastic. The best investment was to get a job that pays your taxes and plug into the Norwegian system. The return isn't a 10-time multiple on your capital. The return is leaving from work at 4 o'clock in the afternoon for a hike in a stunning forest. And the return is knowing that if you get sick, you won't go bankrupt. The return is the peace of mind from living in the high trust, low crime society. And the return is the 15 weeks of paternity leave that would let you bond with your child. The very things that we saw as obstacles is the egalitarianism framework, the work life balance, the society safety nets that were, in effect, the greatest assets of all about going over to Norway. So, if you were focused on your own balance sheet, that's going to fail. You're not going to see the value in the collective balance sheets of the entire society. So, where does that leave you? Because Norway's experiment completely changed what rich even means when we were doing research on it. And to see more about the financial and cultural realities of living abroad, and perhaps follow along as we figure out the next steps, you got to make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification button because we went to investigate Norway with an American dream uh, classic mindset. Found a traditional wife, build a massive stock portfolio, and instead, by the time it got to the end of this investigation, I was shocked to see this that a 2021 Century 21 Norwegian reality that many other countries are still only talking about. They've already got it underway. Like in Norway, they've got the entire so the concept of the egalitarian mindset is doable, but in the United States, it's only talked about, and it's talked about under the ideology that the party that usually doesn't pay is only going to at most pay half in a structured environment where they're expected to never pay at all. So good faith effort at that you'll pay half. But reciprocating is what you're being asked to do, which is not necessarily paying half. It is doing as much as your partner does for you. And what the men aren't experiencing in American culture is reciprocation. And that's why we leave America and go to other countries because we're looking for reciprocation. You'll find that in Norway, just different from your expectations. Now, the journey dismantles the core beliefs, and you'll learn that love in Norway isn't about predefined roles. It's about a radical daily commitment to equality, true equality, not dominance over a man being identified as equality. It's about finding a co lead for the movie of your life, not a supporting character. And you're going to learn that wealth isn't about individual jackpots and relentless hustling. It's about stability, collective well being, and understanding that the greatest asset is a society that takes care of its people, which is something that we completely forgot. We stopped taking care of one another in the early 90s. It's been every man for himself for at least the last 20 years. The plan of solo rich delivery through high end investments is going to fail spectacularly. But in the end, you're still going to find something infinitely better if you go to Norway in comparison to what we're used to here in the United States. The journey isn't over though, because we still got more countries to go to. But what do you think about the way Norway is structured right now? The social interactions, the dating platforms, the investment opportunities. Is the high cost, high trust model a dream come true for you or a nightmare for someone with ambitions with that American style mindset? Let me know your honest thoughts in the comments because we're really curious to hear your perspectives. Now, we had a lot of stuff talked about today because we've actually crossed over 3 hours. I wasn't even expecting that. Um, but we're live 7 nights a week, and tomorrow we got a good show coming up for you. And we're gonna have really every day this week. Later tonight, we're gonna be setting up a lot more shows. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday of next week. So you'll be able to at tonight, tomorrow, the next day, start hitting the notification button on some of the shows that you're gonna be trying to watch, getting some advanced preparation going so that we can go ahead and start it off on time, which should be around about 11 Eastern Standard Time, which is about 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. So you'll be able to swing by on time and be able to see what we've got going on throughout the week. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is going to be personal development, relationship, and other such topics that's going to build you up in your personal life. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday were days where we talk about how we can make money for us, invest in different ways, budget in different ways, find different ways to start up businesses where money can make money for us, where we don't have to be present to get paid, and then different countries around the world on Wednesdays as to where else we can go to live better and potentially make more money. And like we found out with Norway, it's a whole different culture, but there's a different level of success and wealth in that country that is less strenuous to get into because since everything is reasonably automated, once you got into the system and became one of the cogs in the wheel, it would be less effort for group success, less individual effort for group success. And that's something that we have to think about and start reincorporating into our lives. If you start curating this behavior pattern and incorporating it into your American style behavior patterns, you'll come to find a lot more success, especially when you find a network of individuals that performs in the same fashion. And they do exist. You just got to go out and look for them. So, with that being said, before we go, I'm going to say, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you, ladies, to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. And fellas, I give you this information to help you become higher value men so that you can take this information and utilize it to change the things in your life that are inside of your control and navigate around the things that you cannot control. Ladies, while we're a male driven podcast from the male's perspective, we provide you ladies with we provide you also with the same information because y'all can take this information and go and utilize it to make yourselves higher value women as well. It just really requires you to really prioritize what you want and need in life, not so much the luxuries of life. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming to this and that. I'm your host Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.